Hi there, I'm Mikaela McLean, and this is an introduction to your human design energy type. I'm an auric esthetician, and my work focuses on the cultivation of inner beauty using methods such as human design, astrology, Reiki, meditation, yoga nidra, sound healing, crystals, essential oils, and so much more. But a little background before we dive in. I grew up a ballet dancer, which unfortunately left me with an eating disorder, mental health issues, and very low self worth. As a young adult, I found myself in the beauty industry, which is probably not the healthiest place for someone like me. Now, I've been a licensed master esthetician in the state of Washington for 2 decades, specifically working in dermatology and plastic surgery. A real beauty is pain, let me laser your face off kind of gal. A lifelong self professed beauty junkie who always thought another laser or injectable would finally help me be content with myself, but that never happened. And as much as I loved all my years of helping make people feel beautiful on the outside, I always knew there was something missing, both for myself and my patients. My personal journey somehow led me to human design, and the discovery of this system has been such a huge blessing in my life because it led me to stop seeking an external fix and finally recognize my own inner beauty. It has helped me quantum leap into self love and acceptance. And that's what's so cool. Sitting with and studying my own very specific and unique human design, I have learned that that's my role to play here on earth. I'm here to empower others to love and accept themselves from the inside out, but only after learning how to do it for myself. In my experience, human design is nothing short of life changing, but the change can't be rushed. It must be integrated and embodied on a cellular level over time. So let's get started at the beginning. I'm going to introduce you to your own design at the highest level. This video will cover your type, strategy, authority, not self signature, and some deconditioning tips. Don't know what any of that means yet. Don't worry, we're going to cover it all. And for those who do know, this is a great refresher to reacquaint yourself with the fundamentals, the most important elements we need to live out in our day-to-day lives. I have a friend who, after her initial one-on-one human design session with me, said that I am like a hype girl for the universe, and it's true. I get so excited to introduce people to this incredible wisdom, and it tickles me to know the positive chain reaction this is going to set off in your life. So let's get into it. Let me do my job, and let's get you high on you.
All right, so what is human design? Human design is a synthesis of ancient wisdom and modern science. So, on the ancient wisdom side, we have astrology, specifically Western astrology, the I Ching, the Kabbalah, and the Hindu Brahmin chakra system. And then the modern science is quantum mechanics, it's astronomy, genetics, biochemistry. I really like to think of it as your energetic DNA, that is how you are wired. So, what it is not, it's not a religion or a cult. It's not a belief system. There's nothing in it you need to believe. It's a science experiment. Just take it, play it, try with it. Try it out. It's not fortune telling, and you're not predicting the future. This is really more of a blueprint of your potential. And it's not a personality test or quiz. This is it's not the Enneagram, it's not the Myers-Briggs. So the functions of human design, it is known as the science of differentiation. It is everything that makes you up that's so specific and uniquely you. That whole uh, conglomeration of things that really come together to create a unique individual. And like I said before, it's totally objective. It's based on your time, date, and place of birth. Unlike a personality test, we experience a lot of conditioning, and those personality tests speak to who we think we are, who we believe we are, who we've become over time, rather than who we really are at our core, who we've been conditioned to think we are by the world around us, by school, friends, society, so on and so forth. It really helps to shed light on how you are wired, right? Your decision-making style, your energy levels, and at the end of it, I feel like the biggest gift is that it creates so much compassion for yourself. You learn to love and accept yourself, in my opinion, with this, and then also understand that every single other person in the world also has their unique design, and it gives you so much compassion for others. It also helps you identify your key strengths, your talents, again, the special things that make you up as an individual. And then you can highlight that. You can use that in your everyday life. You can use that in business. I say use it, but really it's about the embodiment of it. And then when you come into alignment with you, with that blueprint, magic just starts to happen. So again, the functions, it really is this user's manual for you. It's like you've been given the instructions or the rule book, the guidebook for you and your makeup. I personally really see it as a shortcut to healing and wholeness. It allows these quantum leaps to happen of self-love, self-acceptance, like I said, the embodiment of just you being okay with you, and which is truly the greatest gift. Like I said, your special qualities, your gifts, even your purpose. It really is a system to help you love and accept yourself and others. I wholeheartedly believe that, and that has been my biggest takeaway from my years spent in this experiment. Definitely knowledge for how to help you live your best life with the least amount of resistance. And I also see it uniquely as a diagnostic tool for holistic beauty. When coming from aesthetics and everything always being about the outside, and then you discover all these magical things that maybe nobody ever praised you on, you maybe took for granted, it was never acknowledged, and you realize those are all the things that make you up energetically, that make you beautiful from the inside out. So I jokingly say it's like therapy on steroids. And why human design now? Why is it exploding? We're living in a world that is evolving. Times are changing. In human design, there are specific time periods of a little over 400 years, and we are approaching the end of one, right? So 2027 is part of human design. It's a very important year, and it is a time period where we change time periods. We are going from a very tribal time to a time that is about the individual. And why this is really important is that the period that we're in has to do with structures and building things together. And in the last few years, we've all seen this really kind of crumble before our eyes, how things are absolutely, without a doubt, shifting. And so we need to learn to live as our own authority. So we're moving into this time period of an individual, and I definitely see, it's like influencers and things like that. That's all going to go away. We're going to all realize, especially when we come into alignment with ourselves, we don't need anyone else outside of us telling us what to think, telling us what to do. Um, we are our own authorities. There will be no, gurus outside of that. And so it's a very deeply, deeply, deeply empowering. And that's the magic of something in design about being an individual, is that it's about empowerment, and it also coincides with the, air quotes, Aquarian age in astrology. Um, Aquarius is like, yes, it's humanity, it's for the people, but at the same time, it's about all of us coming together as unique, fully embodied individuals. I'm good with me. You're good with you. We accept we can love each other, but we don't have to be the same. We don't have to belong to the same group, the same, the same anything. It's pretty amazing. It's just like, let your freak flag fly, be yourself, and let's all love each other for it. Um, as I said, individual self-love and acceptance has a ripple effect on others. When you come into a, alignment and that true embodiment with yourself, you are energetically giving permission to everyone around you to do the exact same thing. So deeply empowering, which then in turn raises the frequency of the world. There is a 7-year cycle. This is always really important. I like to point this out when I'm introducing people to design, because the stress is, oh my gosh, I have to understand all of this. I need to be living this immediately. No, it's a science experiment. Like I said, there's nothing you have to believe. The real magic is actually experimenting with it, seeing how when you approach life the way maybe you always have versus kind of the awareness of some of these new things and how it does or doesn't impact your life, positive or maybe not so positive. And the only way you can get there is actually by experimenting. You actually have to live it out. So very important to always remember that. And like I said, the whole thing's a science experiment. And that 7-year cycle is it's like it takes the cells in your body to renew fully that's 7 years. And so to kind of strip away all of the things that we have been conditioned to believe our entire lives, it's a long process and it never really stops, to be honest. But I am at this point, 2022, I'm going on like 7 years in my experiment, and it's quite fascinating. And absolutely, I don't think it stops. You find all the places though that you see it and you have awareness now, and you can bring your attention to the things that you're like, yeah, that's actually out of alignment with my design, and I know how good it feels to live in alignment with it, and I make better choices, and my life is just easier. It flows better when I adhere to my own personal instruction manual. So, one really important thing on all of that, human design is extremely heady, extremely intellectual, extremely complicated. It's a system. Um, so it's almost about exhausting the mind in a sense, because at the end of the day, it is not meant to be lived or comprehended from the mind, not at that conscious level. You're not supposed to be up in your mind thinking about things that don't matter. Again, this is about the experiment, living it from an embodied place, like really being in your body. Your body is it's your antenna. It is the vehicle or the vessel that you've been placed in to experience life. And our bodies are so incredibly wise. We don't give them the credit that they deserve. Um, and when we get into authority, we'll really speak to that. So we have the passenger, which is your mind. This is a huge human design concept, a little bit further along than this intro video, but the passenger is our mind. It's who we think we are. The vehicle is our body that is really like living out and guiding us. And the driver is um it is something called our magnetic monopole. And when I talk about it, it's this thing that really brings everything loving and beautiful our way if we would just get out of our own way, right? It is something that takes us along what is called like the unique geometry of our life. Like we have a path and we just need to relax and enjoy the ride. That's a famous human design quote. Just get out of your own way, relax and enjoy the ride. Let your body do what it's designed to do. So these videos are intro to our human design type, our aura type, our energy type. It gets referred to as a few different things. But like I said, it's just an introduction to your aura type. Your aura, really, you can think of it almost like this vehicle that you ride around in, that you experience life through, and how others experience you as well, how you engage with life. Learning about your type, again, instruction manual, how to operate in alignment. And I do always tell people there is no one type, trait, gate, authority, whatever you want to put, like whatever it is, there's no one thing that's better than another. It's truly, it's truly like every single thing in the chart it's two sides to the same coin. There is a high expression and there's a low expression. And you can learn things about yourself. You're like, oh my gosh, yes, I do that. It's like, great. But you also have the free will and the embodiment, the ability to animate all of those things in a very high expression way as well. So it's really beautiful because you realize you're just wired that way, and I can choose the low vibe or the high vibe expression of every single thing in my chart. So also, this is just learning how to do you to the best of your ability, right? Choose that high expression anytime that you're able to, and experience the least amount of resistance going through life. Make life easier on yourself. All right, so the Reflector Masterclass. So, first off, let's look at what is in a chart for a reflector. Here we have a type. It's just going to say reflector. Strategy is wait a lunar cycle, or sometimes it'll say wait 28 days, depending on where you're pulling your chart from. This is genetic matrix. So, reflector strategy and authority are one and the same. It's going to say wait a lunar cycle or wait the 28 days. And the signature versus the not self is surprise versus disappointment. And a really important thing to notice about a reflector's chart that looks so different than everyone else's is that every single one of these shapes on here is white. Not a single one is colored in, and that is what makes a reflector a reflector. So we all have placements. Black is our conscious placements. These are what would correspond to a normal astrology chart, and red is 3 months approximately. It's 88 degrees of the sun prior to our birth. That is our body that's considered our design side. And so for a reflector, basically what's going on is that to get definition in a regular chart, it would be 37 would connect to 40, and then they would both of those centers would color in, or 26 would connect to 44. Then both these centers light up. So essentially what's happening in a reflector's chart is it's made up entirely of what's called hanging gates. Each one of these gates is a hanging gate. They do not connect to the other one, therefore giving definition. So it's super unique. You guys are super, super special. It's 1% of the population that has a chart that looks like this. Um, so I just like to get into the details of like the why, how did this happen? And then what happens a lot in these situations is that um either you're just born at a time where things are just happen to not be in placements where they would connect, or you have a lot of groupings together. In astrology, sometimes these are called stelliums, where specific planets are in a little cluster in one area. And so there's just there's like I said, there's less potential for things to connect and hook up together. Oh, see, there we go. What makes a reflector a reflector? All nine of the centers are white. I just explained all of that, but there we go again. So yeah, and it's so special. We were going to get into obviously what makes this so special. I laugh because, for instance, I am a sacral generator, but I only have one channel, therefore two centers defined. So I'm the closest thing with definition that you can be before being a reflector. So essentially, if one of my gates, if I didn't have it active, that would then all of a sudden that my chart would be all white like that. So while I'm certainly not a reflector, I feel like there's part of me that deeply relates to that, and not to go too deep, but all my definition is all unconscious. It's in the body, so mentally, like I don't even like really associate with the definition in a sense. So it's very interesting. All right, we're not even going to go too crazy. I like to, all of a sudden, I'm down the rabbit hole. I apologize. So, the aura, right? This is your energy type, which is the aura of a reflector. So, reflectors, like I said, it's super special. They are 1% of the population, and that's an incredibly special role in life. Um, Reflectors are lunar beings in a solar world, and they have this gentle, unobtrusive aura that is, you know, traditionally described as resistant and sampling. And I think of it as like the Doppler radar for the cosmic weather patterns. It's this ability to judge and assess the mental, emotional, physical, spiritual health and well-being of others and their environments, really like judging that collective energy. And they have this gift of being able to tell who is living in authentic alignment and who is not. So, again, gifted at knowing and seeing and really like understanding the other who's ready to wake up and live as their own authority and their own authentic self. So the protective aura for a reflector, it's like essentially just samples and taste test the energy around it. It's going to, like I said, like a Doppler radar or thermometer or something. It's like it's registering and reading the vibes and then evaluating them. So I think of it as like that filtration system. Like each one of those white centers, is a place where you experience life, people, environment, and then you detect the subtle shifts in the energy. So the purpose of a reflector is really to be a clear channel or a gauge. It's like it doesn't you're just interpreting the information. So and I also think of it as like similar to that, the ancient Egyptians weighing the heart in the afterlife against a feather. It's like it's it just is. That is the job, is to evaluate. So, as a reflector, your environment is absolutely everything, and reflectors need free range within their environments, the freedom to come and go. So, free to leave if things are not working, if the vibe is off, if something's out of alignment, if you're not being asked to share your wisdom, essentially. You know, reflectors need to feel safe. They need to feel included, and yeah, in safe and inclusive environments. Having safe people to talk to is also essential, but it's not about you receiving advice from them. Um, and the role is to be at the center of their groups, their communities, because again, you're reflecting the health and the well being of everything around you. So, undefined centers, why I was pointing that out in the very beginning and probably being a little bit confusing, but again, I have a lot of undefined centers myself. And all of those spaces that are white in anybody's chart, those are the places that we, air quotes, like go to school in life. Those are the places that we begin to understand the other and have the potential to become super wise in those areas. Now, for a reflector, right? All nine centers are undefined. So you guys have the potential to be the wisest of everybody, because you can really taste, test, and sample, register, and judge the energy around you. Like I said, I just can't stress enough how special of a role that is. So they're always reflecting the energy of others back to them. And good or bad, potentially just amplifying an out of alignment world, right? And as I mentioned in the beginning, it's an entire chart made up of hanging gates. So those hanging gates essentially, um, the other end, the other piece that would come in, I said, okay, there's 37 in this chart. It's 40 is the other half of it that's not present. It's like that is called an electromagnetic. That 37 is searching and seeking out a 40, whether that's in a person, whether that is in the transits. And when I say transits, that is the astrological weather, if you're paying attention to astrology, where planets are occupying. So you have this potential to hook up to everything and everyone in your environments. So the special gifts for a reflector, it's like reflectors are meant to live this mystical existence, and they're meant to be at one with the whole, with the universe, with the divine, really again, just sort of be in that cosmic soup. Um, Very much about going with the flow. They're the ones that are in tune with nature and the cosmos. That the idea is that back in the day, reflectors were the people, because we really did live in alignment with the cycles of nature and with every living thing on earth. Um, a huge purpose for reflectors is helping humanity by showing what is or isn't working, what's in alignment, what's out of alignment. And this ability to awaken others to the possibility of their greatest potential, like helping other people um, live as their authentic self. So again, special, special role. I think you guys are like the non-judgmental judge. It's about accepting others, yet still reflecting the truth. And they're meant to be a neutral messenger. It's like, okay, don't shoot the messenger. I'm merely mirroring things back to you. So the hangups and the pitfalls of being a reflector, because there is no set definition in the chart, and definition for everybody else is basically where they're consistent, where it's like this is me day in and day out regardless. It's just kind of a buffer essentially to outside energy. Reflectors don't have that. So there's this questioning, who am I? And then the world outside is the pressure to know who you are. Think of that Dolly Parton quote. know who you are and do it on purpose. Fantastic quote. Well, Dolly's great, right? For say that's for somebody with definition with a defined G center. But for a reflector, that sort of flies in the face of like what you're here to be and to do. You are here to go with the flow and change and adapt and be this sort of like energetic chameleon in your environments. So another thing is feeling invisible, excluded. Like I don't belong here in some sense, and oftentimes it's because the environment or the people aren't healthy. Um, Over identifying with others, there's that potential for codependency in close relationships because, again, other people are sort of seeing themselves in you. Owning others' fears, anxieties, sadness, sickness, their overwhelm, anything like that, overwhelming emotions, what have you. Really, really kind of having that potential to take it on, especially when there's not an awareness that this is what's going on energetically. And then, of course, not seen for who they really are. Like I said, don't shoot the messenger. I'm merely reflecting things back to you. And they have this gentle yin nature, which is dominated by an overabundance of yang force in the world, right? You guys are the lunar beings in a solar world. And then there's a pressure to go and be fast, to make quick decisions, to make moves. We're going to get to this, but with a strategy that's about 28 days, it's like you are meant to go slow and go with the flow in life. So, a note on those open and undefined centers. I say open, undefined, it's like um, they are slightly different. Open means you have absolutely no gates colored in, and undefined means the gate is white, or excuse me, the center is white, but there are colors coming off of it. Either way, all of yours are white. In other types, the white centers, right? Like I said, they're the most vulnerable to outside conditioning. So, use myself as an example again. 7 of those guys are white. Those are all the places I have the potential to be knocked off and out of alignment in life because if I don't have that awareness, I'm like, I think something's missing, or, I'm over here trying to prove myself or think about things that don't matter. Instead of understanding, no, this is where I'm meant to be sort of that non-judgmental judge and really understand others through those centers. However, right, these centers have magical potential. As I said, it's like this is where the wisdom gets to come from with awareness. And reflectors, all 9 centers are white, yet they are the only ones truly built for it. Right. So your aura, the energy body around you, it's like it's resistant and sampling. So you don't take it on too deeply. Unlike, say, somebody like me who is going to kind of get confused and discombobulated by that, you have this natural protection from taking in others at a too deep of a level, especially once you have this awareness. So each of the centers has a not self theme, meaning you're out of alignment. So I want to just place these here. There are many more that go with this, but these are sort of the baseline. So you can kind of look at them and ask yourself, like, where am I potentially off track? So right up at the top, the head, the crown, am I trying to answer everyone else's questions? In the mind, am I trying to convince others that I'm certain? Your throat, am I trying to attract attention? Or sometimes not saying anything at all because you feel like nobody listens to you anyway. The G center, it's like, am I looking for love, direction, or purpose? In the heart or the ego, it's like, do I think I have to prove myself? The spleen, am I holding on to what isn't good for me? Your sacral, do I know when enough is enough? The root, am I in a hurry to be free of pressure and stress? Or the emotional solar plexus, am I avoiding confrontation and uncomfortable emotions? So for reflectors, obviously their sacral is not defined. This is 70% of the world has their sacral defined, meaning they're generators or manifesting generators. And that comes with more of a consistent energy level. So for non-sacral beings, which is reflectors, projectors, and manifestors, they do not have consistent energy levels. And again, this is okay. There's no good or bad. It just is. So you're sampling energy from others like to stress when you're non-sacral, you are not somebody who's meant to take the advice, go with your gut. That's not for you. Very important that you have aura-free spaces, including your bedroom. Ideally in design, everybody's told, that it's best if you sleep alone, but especially for non-sacral people because you're really absorbing, other people's energy all night long and you need time to empty out and reset. I always say to people, take that with a grain of salt, depending on your living situation, your relationship, what have you, you know, take what works. But frequently non-sacral people do say, "Oh goodness, I get the best rest either when I'm traveling or when, say, my spouse is traveling, or maybe you go take naps in another room." But having aura-free space every day where you can separate from other people and kind of empty out and get back to yourself is really, really vital. Building rest breaks into your everyday. Again, places and time to go and get away. I really encourage being out in nature, and allowing that to help you sort of what's called decondition, just empty out and reset yourself. Um, don't try to keep up. Don't overdo it. Again, you're living in a world that's built for sacral beings where the expectation is to be able to go 8, 10, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? On. And your energy is meant to fluctuate. So you can't hold yourself to like a consistent pattern all the time. So, like I said, learning to know when enough is enough. And also on the sleep front is winding down into sleep. You don't want to go to bed completely exhausted. Ideally, you are letting yourself have a little bedtime routine, laying down flat. That's great if you can, even just your little rest breaks, lay down flat for 5 to 10 minutes, but right before bed, 30 minutes to 60 minutes ahead of time, maybe you had a shower, you read a book, watch a show, doesn't matter, but you're laying down flat and that really helps you to empty out other people's energy. All right, so strategy, how you're meant to engage with the world then. And authority. Who's your boss? It's the ultimate decision maker. So, strategy is how you go about life, authority is how you make the correct decision. So, for 100% of us, no matter what your type, it is never, ever, ever our minds. That's really important. That is not where design is meant to be lived from. And also, for a reflector, it's not going to be your gut. So, as well for reflectors, there's only one possibility on both of these. It's lunar authority. And sometimes you'll see it says no inner authority. So, your strategy and authority is unique, unlike everybody else's. It's always one and the same. So again, to remind you, not sacral authority. So when people say, go with your gut, trust your gut, you're like, I'm throwing that out the window. That is not advice for me. So your strategy is wait a lunar cycle. When it comes to those big life decisions, you want to spend an entire lunar cycle, so 28 days, marinating on and discussing whatever you're deciding with trusted people in your environments that feel really good to you. It's very important to be selective with the places that you go and the people that you associate with. So over time, the answers that you seek will be revealed to you, and you'll reach a state of clarity and inner knowing. It's like you have the thing that triggers the potential for a decision, and then you're really giving yourself the time and the space to get there, to get clarity, right? So it's very important that you just like slow down and enjoy life surprises and don't let anybody rush you. Again, we live in a world that wants an answer yesterday, and this is so not for you. I'm like, the moon takes 28 days to go through its cycle. It's not, you know, it's not done in 24 hours. So that strategy again, waiting a lunar cycle, the moon, which is the reflector's ruler, moves counterclockwise through all 64 gates of human design in each lunar cycle. So basically, it's like there's 64 different ways to experience energy, different 64 different themes, and even more within that. And the moon only stays in each gate approximately 10 hours. So it just is coming in and bringing temporary definition to the chart. So again, let's go back to I mentioned gate 37. The moon could occupy gate 40 and all of a sudden you have those centers colored in. And now okay, um I have temporary definition sort of coloring my chart. I'm experiencing that. But what's cool is that it is a consistent pattern from month to month. Like you have your baseline of hanging gates, and then the moon will move through each one of those 64 gates in the cycle. And each cycle is kind of like a chapter or episode being revealed to you as you experience it. Like I said, you're really tracking the moon, but all transits and all people are sampled and experienced for the reflector. But like I said, it's like I don't know what, from the beginning of the chapter to the end of the chapter, this is a mystery. I don't know what's going to happen over the course of these pages. I really just have to sort of experience it. So with lunar authority, and it says no inner authority, 28 days. It's like basically it means there's no reliable moment to moment indicator of what's correct. Um, And I wanna stress is like the bigger the decision, the more important the waiting 28 days is. If it's like, "Hey, you wanna go get coffee?" You don't need to wait 28 days to do that. You go with what feels good in the moment, and the people who it feels good to be around, the places it feels good to go, and trust that. And so basically, there's a diamond at the center of our chest, one of those centers, and it's called the G center. And people with defined G centers is not for you really to know. You may know people in your life with this, but essentially what's going on is that people that are defined here will initiate the reflector into the fold and introduce them to new experiences, people, places, things. And then it's the reflector's job to sample and discern. And so it's important that you wanna be initiated for big decisions in your life, like basically waiting for things to be presented to you, for that initiation to come, for somebody to reach out and grab your hand and be like, "Come with me." So important that you take your time, go slow, and allow for the clarity to reveal itself to you, right? Like I said, reading the chapter and then you're like, "Cool, what's on the next page? What's on the next page? I don't know yet." And the full cycle essentially helps gain distance and perspective from that thing. And then it helps you make a decision because you're going to experience it all the different ways possible. So the not self versus your signature. And I say that's the warning light versus our happy place. So the not self to me is like it's the red flag, it's the warning light that comes on in the car that's like, oh my goodness, girl, no, you're trying to go 20 miles off the wrong road. Let's not do this. It's not where we want to be operating from. So, for the reflector, the not self is disappointment. And this shows up as feeling invisible, feeling left out, giving into pressure to be like the other 99% of the world. You are not the rest of the world. You are so unique and so amazing. Um, Also over identifying with everything that you're not, like you're not a label. You get to be like I said, the filtration system, the thing that's registering it all. Um, Owning other people's pain, their sickness, their sadness, whatever as your own. It's not yours. You are, again, you're registering it, you're sampling it, attaching the labels, attaching to people, that codependency potential, staying in less than ideal environments or staying around people who don't feel good to you, feeling forced, to rush your decisions, knowing people's potential and then not seeing them fulfill it. That can be deeply disappointing for a reflector because, again, you're mirroring back. You understand the energy. You know what people's potential is, that they could wake up and they could live as their authentic self, and it could be amazing. And just to see people not completely express that. But I always say with the not self, make friends with it is here to help you. It's actually a safety mechanism, right? You think, okay, if the warning light comes on that I have no gas in the car, like, well, I want to know that. This isn't a bad thing. This is just letting me know I have something that I need to look at and address. So if you're feeling disappointment in any of its forms, this is your cue to go back to your strategy and authority. So what does that look like? You would ask yourself, was I initiated into the experience? Did somebody bring something and present it to me that's like, okay, now we're starting the next chapter? Um, 2, Did I allow for a full lunar cycle to go by if this is a medium on up decision, medium to very important decision? I really want to sit with this. Was I allowed free range, to be able to come and go as I please, to sample the energy all around me, or also am I over identifying with a person, a label, a place, a whatever, an identity? So the signature, though, what I say is like hashtag goals. This is like in alignment. It's where we want to be operating from in life. So for you guys, it's surprise, right? It's no labels. There's no expectation there. It's asking yourself, who do I get to be today and what will I get to experience? Right? We're going for that surprise. Like, I don't know. Every day is a choose your own adventure. Reflectors get to have this childlike wonder, this surprise, delight, and awe at life of just, wow, this is such a magical existence. Unattached, no expectations, and just getting to be this objective observer. Also feeling initiated and included, like you get to be an active participant in life rather than feeling like I'm sitting on the outside, I'm on the sidelines, and I'm not involved, right? Um, Feeling good when your reflections are asked for or welcomed by others, getting to awaken other people to their highest potential, and uplifting and amplifying all the positive energy around you. So we have the most potential to be knocked off in those white places, but also the ability to turn up the volume. And I think you have these 9 places that you can turn up the volume on beautiful, positive energy in the world. And then you're here for the experience, just going with the flow as it feels good. So deconditioning, which is, I just say this, like cleaning up your vibration, right? Making sure, again, that you've got those aura-free spaces to empty out your filters and reset. If you think of each one of those 9 centers as like a sponge or a filter, it's like, okay, I sucked people's energy up and now I need to release and let it go. I'm just sampling, but I got to cleanse the palette. Aura cleansing practices. So I love to use a selenite wand and what's called like combing the aura, a few inches away, like sweeping yourself from head to toe with a selenite wand. I really encourage salt baths, plenty of time in nature, resetting with sound healing and lots of meditation. Reflectors really want to balance that people time and alone time. It's very important that you are the person at the center reflecting everything, but at the same time, it does have to be balanced with no people time too. Getting ample rest during the day, quality sleep at night, like I said, winding down into sleep that 30 to 60 minutes prior. And then don't try to keep up. Your energy levels vary greatly from day to day. We want to examine and address any codependency, over identifying with those people who are in your life all the time because they're kind of constantly activating those certain gates and centers. And then removing yourself from incorrect environments and from being around maybe less than ideal people. Making sure that you slow down, don't rush, and don't allow others to hurry you. And then ultimately, do not judge yourself, right? Your purpose looks different than the other 99% of people. So I did want to touch too, when I said, the moon travels around and your energy levels vary. What's important about that, and then as you pay attention to this as time goes on, you'll have days where you wake up and okay, for the first, half of the day, I've got activations that are making me a generator. And wow, I have great energy, I have some stamina. And then maybe later in the day, the activation has changed and now I'm feeling like a projector or, a manifester. It's like every day it's like gonna travel through and there are ways to track this, which is pretty awesome. I will specialize when I do one-on-ones for people, go through their chart and look at all their gates and then be able to map it out for them. And I'm like, this is your map from month to month. And then there are other ways of also looking at this. But I have all these sort of additional suggestions because reflectors have the least amount of information available to them. Ra Uru, who was the founder of Human Design, he said, I got the least amount of information channeled about reflectors. You guys are these magical, mystical beings, and so they're a bit of a mystery, right? But through my own sort of awareness, my studies, my work with the reflectors that I've worked with, I have just some suggestions that I love to throw out there. Would not be part of traditional human design, but definitely my background in astrology and sort of my energetic practices. So, um, I'm like cultivate a deeper relationship with the moon. And the ways that you can do this, would be journaling your cycles of experience and the patterns. So, one, you could find out all the gates and how that activates, or just really looking at yourself and going, wow, I am really tracking this 28-day cycle. And it seems always around in the second week of the month. Maybe I'm feeling a little up, down, whatever. But very handy to kind of be aware of what's going on. I would encourage like a moon. Obviously, that's the moon tracking, right? The transit tracking. Then you could get moon apps, things that track the moon through the different phases, and really even looking at the phases of the moon and paying attention to that. How do I feel on a waxing moon versus a waning moon, or a full or a new moon? Because you're going to be really sensitive to that, really an observer, to the cosmic energy. I'd also suggest moon card, like oracle decks, things that really involve the moon heavily. There's some really cool ones available. Just again, deepen that relationship. There are wooden grids that you can get that are the phases of the moon, and I have one, and I'll have this little moonstone, and I'll move it around the grid as the moon goes through its different phases. Like it's only in a sign for 2.5 days at a time. And like I said, and then only in a gate within that sign for not even quite 10 hours at a time. So fun to just have a way of actually tracking it and seeing. And I think again, it gives you more tangible tools, because the reflector and its energy is like so etheric. It's like, okay, let's ground this down a little bit and really see how it shows up in my life. I also encourage like looking into the mythology of lunar deities, because you might be like, wow, okay, this particular culture has this god or goddess. The moon goddess Selene, she's a wonderful one to really dive into and read about. So if that interests you, fall down that rabbit hole. There are plenty of stories on the moon and its like I said, the gods and goddesses. And then I would encourage new and full moon rituals, partaking in that, whether they're by yourself or within a group, like a moon circle, if that's available to you. And then crystals to work with: moonstone, selenite, pearl, and mother of pearl, all really beautiful representations of that lunar energy. And then further education. Again, this is stuff that I am like, okay, when I work one-on-one with people, we'll really dig into this stuff, because there's so much more information than just than just, all right, 28 days and good luck, So I'm like, your profile in human design it looks like a little fraction. It's made up of two numbers. That's really going to help be like, okay, so I am supposed to be this non-judgmental judge. I reflect the energy, but then like how? So profile is your costume or your public role in like the business context is public role. I would encourage you looking at and investigating your incarnation cross, and even the quarter of the wheel that your cross shows up in, because incarnation cross has to do with sort of like your life's theme, trajectory, purpose, and then the potential for evolution. Um, Primary cognition. This is another deeper layer of human design, and this is going to help give you more intuitive clues of like, how do you sense the energy? I, for instance, have my primary cognition is feeling, and it's about feeling energy, right? Sensing energy within my aura. And there's six different things that it could be. And so it's very fun when you're like, wow, I've always known that, but then to have it confirmed, like this is really how I sense what's going on around me, and help strengthen that within you. I am a big North Node junkie. I'm obsessed, and I always have been with the nodes of the moon. right? There's the moon again. And this really tells a story, especially in astrology, of like, where we've come from and where we're going. So the North Node really does have to do with our dharma. And I think, my goodness, especially for a reflector, where you're like, just help me out. Give me some sort of idea of a North Star that I'm following. And this is it's a whole way of getting into something a lot deeper. And like I said, I work very deeply with people one-on-one in this area. Then looking at the gates that your moon placements occupy, you're going to have two. It is the fifth placement down on both the black and the red side. It looks like a little moon, and then it's going to have a number followed by a decimal place. So that first number is the gate that the moon is occupying. And if you want to dive into that, you can really dig in and read about those particular gates. My podcast, Beauty by Design, you can hop on there and find those gates that it occupies and sort of, again, just understand yet another little layer. The moon in human design is considered it's a driver. It's what drives us in life. So knowing your two moon placement gates, being a lunar being, would potentially be really cool and helpful. And then, of course, like I said, listen to Beauty by Design, right? With your chart for reference, because it can be fun. One, you could be like, wow, I do resonate with that energy. Or maybe you're hearing about the other half that hooks up and creates that electromagnetic connection. And it's just going to be helpful, I think, for a reflector, again, being the cosmic weather person that really gauges everything, to have this deeper education in what's going on in the transits, in the cosmos. So I love the quote, be in the world, but not of the world. That is a reflector in a nutshell. It's like like I said, magical purpose that is not like everybody else. Just know how super special that you are, and you don't have to be like everyone else. So, a little recap, right? The reflector is the gentle presence with that protective, that sampling unobtrusive aura, taste testing, filtering the energy around you. And it's the non judgmental judge, like simply reflecting the truth. You belong in the center of the group, in the world, but not of the world, right? Your purpose is different and so unique, awakening people and transcending the labels and the identities that everybody else wants to put on people. It's like that's not you. And the more of us that can just live as our authentic selves and not attached to those things, the better. And you are the person to be that living example of that. So zone of genius, right? Living this mystical experience, this existence that, meant to be one with the universe. Go with the flow, being in tune with nature and the cosmos. And you're helping humanity by showing everyone what is or is not in alignment. And your strategy and authority. Remember, we're waiting that lunar cycle, that 28-ish days, to make those bigger life decisions. In the meantime, you don't have that inner authority. So wait to be presented with the next thing, be initiated by others into the new experiences. And in the small day-to-day stuff, you go with what feels good, and go home and journal about it and keep track of things and really be able to evaluate as your energy levels, as the emotions and everything is fluctuates from day to day, to help you sort of gauge and register what's going on.
All right, that's the basics of your human design energy type. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's a lot of info, but at the same time, we only just barely scratched the surface of your incredibly unique design. The most important thing to remember is that it's a science experiment. Like, take this information into your everyday life and play around with it. Did this leave you hungry for more? I would love to work with you on a much deeper level. You can book a one-on-one with me. Plus, I have classes, trainings, and all kinds of other offerings coming very soon. You can stay up to date by following me on Instagram at Mikaela McLean. My link tree is always current, and you can sign up for my free 23-page guide to human design basics that covers all the energy types and centers and whatnot. I also have a podcast called Beauty by Design, which I highly recommend as an educational resource. We get into things way deeper. And plus, there's beauty meditations, beauty rituals, and interviews with my friends in the aesthetics industry who also love human design. So, again, thank you for joining me. And until next time, have a beautiful day.